Hi, I'm Phil Constantine, and on this episode of Travels with Phil, we are going to the Saratoga National Historic Park in New York. You can see on the map here where it's located along the Hudson River, and this was the scene of two significant battles in the American Revolutionary War in September and October of 1777. The significance of this was the Americans' first time beat a significant British army, and this gave the French the opinion that the Americans were really there, really a force to be reckoned with, and they started to side with the Americans after this point in the American Revolutionary War. Let's go to a video I shot at the Visitor Center.
With Phil continues from the Saratoga National Park. This is the scene from the Visitor Center where a lot of the fighting went on, and some people say one of the most important battles in the Revolutionary War, because this is the first time an American army captured a British army and changed a lot of the texture of the war between Canada, the area of Canada, and New York State. The efforts of the British to split the colonies in two did not go off as it was intended to do. More from the battlefield as I get out there.
And again, it was after this that the French decided to support the Americans. These are some of the major players in the battle on both sides here. Arthur St. Clair. And there we go. General Horatio Gates, he was in charge of the American forces. General John Burgoyne, he was in charge of the British forces. This is one of the long display walls in the Visitor Center. Has some very nice displays if you like museums. And this is, again, a very significant Revolutionary War site. Ranks right up there with Yorktown. They have a very nice display there that shows you where everybody went. It's just too long to put into this video. It takes about 15 minutes to see the entire movie there. And this is one of the scenes from just outside there again. Now, as we move across the countryside here, there are lots and lots of signs out there that try to explain it. But again, this happens over a month. There are two major battles, early September, early October. And so there was a lot of movement going on. September 19th was one of them. I believe the other was October 6th, 7th, 8th, somewhere around there. And so a lot of movement, a lot of activity here. So it does take some effort to figure out exactly what happened when and where. And it's almost like the baseball game. You can't tell a player without a program. So you do. It does help to have the guides that they provide you with, or do your own research before you get there, and definitely read the signs if you're interested in knowing why this particular spot was important during this particular battle. Some of the a lot of memorials out here. This is Nielsen Farm, one of the major sites in the battle itself. And this also served as some headquarters from time to time. And you can see in here it says Poor. That was the General Poor, upstairs and downstairs at this site. And you drive in and out of the American defensive lines, the British defensive lines. Now, again, the lines changed and moved during the battles, but there were some basic spots out here. Quite a few soldiers were unknown when they died, so they do have a grave for unknown soldiers here. You'll see that at a fair amount of both Revolutionary and Civil War sites. And again, this went all the way down from the Heights all the way down to the Hudson River. And so both the British and the Americans had forces on the rivers at different times and at different locations. Here's some video from the Bemis Heights.
Travels with Phil continues here at the North Redan on the Bemis Heights at Saratoga. Looking out at the area here, this is the area that they would have been protecting. Had the British been moving in from the distance coming this way, they would have been a sure problem, or a sure stop for them, as they had artillery up here. That may be a little hard to see. I'll zoom in a little bit. But right out there, that's the Hudson River. Right along there, you just barely see it. Just below that hill up there that's got the clearing on top. You see a little house right in there. That's the Hudson River. This is the Bemis Heights at Saratoga. I wonder if Cliff Bemis is related to these people. Interesting. All right, Travels with Phil continues.
Cliff Bemis is an acquaintance of mine, and you may have remembered him from the old IHOP commercials from long ago, the Fresh and Fruity Rudy Tooty. He does other kinds of acting as well. All right, various, again, sites and locations, maps showing you where, whom went where. And again, it is a bit of a complicated thing, especially since the fighting here occurred over a month's time. Chatham Field was another one of the sites, and you can see on the map here where that is located at. And if you'd like to see more of the pictures or pictures in more detail, you can always try and pause this, but you can go to my website, which will be down in a link to it will be down in the description field for this video. Another spot was called a farmer named Barber, his wheat field. And a lot of fighting went on here in various spots, locations. In some cases, they were able to hide within the wheat field. In other cases, they didn't provide anything other than just a visual deterrent. And once they knew where you were, wheat is not something you can hide behind as far as protecting yourself other than by sight. So again, lots and lots of places out here. Various what they call redoubts, redans. These are just different names for how many sides a fortification, usually earthworks, are, which way they're pointed, how many sides there are. Balcarres Redoubt. And usually a redoubt has complete sides. Redans often only have 1 or 2 or 3 sides that don't protect it 360 degrees, mainly pointed in a direction where you believe the enemy is at or know the enemy is at, as the case is concerned. But you can look all of those words up to get a precise definition. The Freeman House and Farm, again, another spot that was very important as far as a locale amongst all the fighting that was going on. And you can see the earthworks up here, and what they did was they built up a lot of earthworks. They'd dig a ditch, pile them up behind them, so they'd have a low spot in front and a high spot behind, or in some cases you'd be able to stand in part of the ditch and then have part of the hill protecting you, and you could just step up and maybe shoot over the top of it, which would protect you quite well from gunshot, but cannon fire was another story. The Bremen Redoubt was another spot out there, and again, there were lots of places out there where the fighting went on. Different units would move around. Canadian cabins where Canadian forces hid in these cabins or used them as a little gathering point. And there's lots of these little spots out there. Now, here's a thing that I've always enjoyed. The Monument to a Boot here at Saratoga National Historic Park.
Travels with Phil continues at Saratoga National Battlefield, historical site. It's one of the most unusual monuments you're ever going to see. It's of a boot. There's no name on it. Go around to the back side of it. This happened at Burgoyne's Redoubt. And it says here, erected 1887 by John Watts de Pester, who was a brevet major general, in memory of the most brilliant soldier of the Continental Army who was desperately wounded on this spot, the sally port of Burgoyne's Great or Western Redoubt, October 7, 1777, winning for his countrymen the decisive battle, the American Revolution, and for himself the rank of Major General. But the general's name isn't mentioned. The name I mentioned at first is just the person who put the monument up. Who was this general, and why wasn't his name mentioned? It's because he eventually became a traitor and left the American forces and joined the British. And now his name is synonymous with being a traitor. Who was he? Benedict Arnold. But here at Saratoga, he was one of the American leaders.
He felt that Gates was not a very good general, and they had constant bickering going on, and that was one of the reasons why Arnold eventually went over to the British. Not the only reason, but one of the starting points. And he was very severely wounded here, but he still managed to survive. And again, more of Burgoyne's headquarters. There's some deer running across the field, which I thought was very nice. And again, lots of signs out here. You can see the signs have been weathered a bit, but this is in the middle of New York, mid-central New York. It gets very, very cold up here. Again, these are the river redoubts, and that is the Hudson River that you see along there. And then one of the other spots where the battle took place was in the little town of Saratoga, and that's where the final part of the fighting took place. And it's actually the spot where Burgoyne eventually surrendered to Gates. And again, this led to the French taking the Americans seriously and deciding to come in on the American side during the Revolution. And that is really vitally important to this battle and helped the Americans win the Revolution. And when they got to Yorktown, it was the French fleet that kept the British under Cornwallis in the area where they were at Yorktown and led to the Americans' defeat of them. Although that wasn't the final battle. It was a couple years before the eventual signing of the peace treaty that ended the war. But again, Saratoga, and more than one spot where the fighting took place, and there's a painting of the surrender. And then, again, there were lots of beautiful flowers all over the place out there as I came through in June of 2016. And I just thought I would end this with some pictures of the flowers that you see out there. And you're listening to the United States, either Air Force or Army Fife and Bugle Corps here in the background. I'll just let it play out. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up by clicking on the button below. You're welcome to leave comments below as long as the language is family friendly. And finally, if you'd like to see more of my videos, please subscribe to my channel by clicking the button over on the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you again for watching.